Welcome to the Football Retro Podcast.
The word welcome, I guess, is stretching it a little when you're an Australian in a place like this today.
Hello and welcome to episode 16 of the Football Retro Podcast. Hi, I'm your host Johnny, and today I'm joined by Ak and Adasi. How you doing, guys?
Great, Johnny. We've missed the last couple episodes. Always good to be back in the hot seat.
The hot seat, eh? Mate, I'm doing well, Johnny. I'm doing well.
Yeah.
Had our first taste of Australian summer today, you know. Far as, was it 35 today?
It was really hot. I went to the beach.
Same.
Did you?
Yeah,
Where'd you go?
near Wollongong.
Oh, wow, good on you.
Yeah.
I was near Maroubra. So.
There you go. Out that way. No, it was good.
Yeah.
International Week. Football in the football world.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, I said it a few weeks ago. I was able to catch up on Netflix this weekend there.
I was going to ask you that.
It's a polarising topic, this one.
So a few weeks ago you mentioned that International Week for you means catching up on Netflix.
100%, mate. 100%. You know, caught up on a few good shows.
You sour grape.
Well, mate, you know, the streaming is the way. Got to watch the new dramas when they come out.
The international break is the time for it, huh? For you.
100%.
What about you, Adasi? You watched much?
I don't watch much. I'll keep up to date with the results and see highlights every now and then. And speaking of the results this weekend, the final four spots for Euro 2021 actually, given it was supposed to be this year.
Yeah, it's not Euro 2020 anymore, mate.
Yeah, so the final four spots decided, the groups all finalised, and for me the standout was couple one, North Macedonia making their first ever major tournament.
Wow, first ever.
Knocking off Georgia, and yeah, big moment for them. And Scotland, their first Euro since Euro 96 and first major tournament since France 98.
Yeah,
So-
we'll get into the groups now. We'll discuss
Yeah.
them a little bit.
Yeah.
The fact that the tournament's still called Euro 2020.
I know, I was just looking at
They're
that.
not changing the name.
I'm confused, man. It's one of those things that it should have been 2020, but next year, I don't know. It's
Is there a problem with the trademarking, maybe, or like changing the name?
probably the marketing team's too lazy to change the logo. I don't know.
They're too lazy. I
I don't think it's a laziness thing.
think it's a money
Surely
thing.
it's
I
a
think
legal.
it's a money thing.
Yeah, surely it's a legal thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's going to be called Euro 2020, even though it's in 2021.
And another thing about that is it was supposed to be held across 13, 12 different
12.
cities across Europe. But
Yeah,
now,
how's that going to be changed now?
with COVID, I don't know if they're going to do it a bubble.
I mean, surely they have to.
At
like,
this
that's-
stage, from what I saw, it's still across 12 cities.
Wow.
For
I mean,
now,
come
I
on,
don't know whether that's
Wow.
going to survive next year or not, but
Yeah.
Look,
Yeah,
for
it's
me,
12
I'm
cities.
quite concerned. Like, the numbers are rising in Europe right now, and many leagues are, you know, having to face the question of whether they shut down again, let alone project into 2021 for the next bloody international tournament across 12 cities. This seems a little
from here to June next year, we don't know where the pandemic will be by then.
The
Good one.
Okay. Look, I mean, you're right in the sense that, like, yeah, we don't know where things are going to be, but at the same time, Johnny, it is, I think, a little reckless to not have a plan set up.
We don't know
and
if they
talk-
do or not. We
I'm
don't
not
know.
saying they don't.
Yeah.
They don't know. I'm just saying, like, let us know what the plan is. You know, a lot of fans are going to be trying to buy tickets and trying to organise their plans. Are they even going to allow fans in the stands?
That's the thing. The rules of crossing borders and stuff as well have
Yeah.
to come into play as
So
well.
there needs to be clear guidelines of what we're going to look at, and they need to start talking about it now.
So you want a what if plan? Because right now they can say whatever they want, but it might change in a month's time.
No,
so.
I think they have to, because you've got countries that are doing quite well compared to others in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe, I don't know, just throwing it out there. Put it in Germany, for example. They've got the
You
facilities
mean
there.
pick a country that's doing really well?
Yeah, Germany, for example, they've got the facilities, they've got the stadiums.
It's
Maybe-
such a complicated
Yeah, I
thing.
don't know.
and
It's
this is where, like, I think that there's an issue where with hosting competitions across multiple countries, like we've seen in the past, because big issues like this, every nation has differing rules, regulations, differing expectations. Culture is a little factor involved, and then you have things like the international borders that you have to respect and things like that. If Germany's doing well, and it's a case of putting that all into Germany, putting the entire tournament into Germany, then what are the economic side of some of the nations that don't get to host those games that they were supposed to?
Well,
Yeah.
same thing happened with the Champions League and the Europa League this year.
yeah,
Yeah.
There was no fans allowed, but
the-
look, not apparently, the reason why it was across 12 countries aka 12 Cities,
Mm.
was a celebration of
100 years, wasn't it?
60th birthday of the 60th
Euros.
celebration of Euros
Oh, fair enough.
happening. So
Yeah.
it's a one-off event
Yeah.
where it was across 12 cities because of that.
But we have
not
seen-
that the tournament's going to happen from now on every
Yeah.
time across 12
No,
cities.
just
true.
a one-off.
But we have seen many tournaments over the last 20 years or so to share the responsibility. You know, South Korea, Japan, Russia.
Austria, Switzerland, and
Yeah,
Europe.
Let me ask you this. What do you think of the World Cup in 2026 being played across Mexico, US and Canada? 3 different countries, but geographically it's a massive area.
Yeah, like you've got to think about things like just travel time between. Hey, could you imagine having to play in Mexico and then play in Canada?
I think-
I certainly hope they're going to map out the matches.
Yeah, they do play.
You're a little bit more intelligent.
No, the way they'll schedule the matches, they'll have to geographically have them in places
Playing by
where
region?
country can go from
Yeah.
city to city in a reasonable amount of time. But I think only a small amount are going to be held in Canada, and the majority will be in the US. And
Yeah, which
Mexico.
stands to reason. But even the US alone,
It's big enough as it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah. Like as a fan traveling, you're right. I don't want to catch a flight from Mexico to Canada to follow my
oh my
team.
goodness.
Like, say your team gets out of the group stage and the next game needs to be in Canada.
Yeah.
Holy crap, it's a big flight for a
No,
World
yeah,
Cup.
100%. And even just in the United States, like I believe
New York
in
to LA.
New York
Yeah.
to LA is
Yeah.
a trip on its own, and it cost a pretty penny. Let me tell you.
They'd have to logistically work that. I think when the USA did host USA '94, yeah, in the world.
And
so
look,
they-
Copa America in Argentina and Colombia next year. It was meant to be this year again.
Yeah.
I know the 2 groups, one's in Colombia, one's in Argentina.
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
And then that's why. So they'll be totally divided. So whichever group is in Argentina, you play all your games in that country and vice versa.
so
Yeah.
that's why there's more incentive for the team that I guess comes first in the group to maybe have that advantage of not having to travel. That's how it works.
Yeah,
So.
yeah.
Fair enough. Like I said, I certainly hope there is a lot of thought planned out. But we've all seen in many different areas of life. Sometimes the people in charge don't really do their job.
No. Come on. Are you
And
talking
there's-
about VAR now? Or
I'm talking about VAR. I'm talking about corruption. Talking about Donald Trump. Sorry, man. It's something in my
Speaking
throat.
of corruption,
Sorry,
Platini was the
something in my
one.
throat, man.
Platini was the one that announced the whole celebration about the Euro.
And then he got dismissed from his job because of corruption. So.
So that works out really nicely, guys.
The Euro. So Group A, we've got Turkey, Italy, Wales, and Switzerland. Predictions.
Oh, Italy's not the same as before. I still think that they'll go through with probably Switzerland. But that's the thing as well with these groups. There's 24 teams, and you can come third in the group and still make it to the knockout stage. So
Can you?
It's the top 2, and then the 6 out of the 8 or so best placed, third place teams.
So there'll be 16 going through.
Yeah, still around the 16. So
Okay.
Wow, fair enough. I mean, I hear what you're saying about Italy not being the same. I think they've just really lacked a real elite goal scorer for a long time. But their midfield is still pretty strong. Their defense is pretty strong. You've got Marco Verratti from PSG, who I think this tournament has to be all on him now. He's not really performed in other tournaments in the last couple of tournaments. Italy didn't even make it into the last World Cup, so to speak. So I do hope to see that midfield
yeah.
step up, but they've lacked a really great number 9.
Yeah.
Right now, I think their best striker is Andrea Bellotti.
Yeah, when they got
What
Ciro
about
Immobile.
Immobile.
Yeah.
Ciro Immobile is one of those players, Johnny, that we were talking about before, where for Lazio, plays fantastic. For Italy, not so much.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, they've really lacked a consistent player on the international stage.
He's got 36 goals in the last Serie A tournament.
Yeah. He's a monster for Lazio and in Serie A.
In terms of the teams, yeah, so Italy, I think, along with Switzerland and or Wales.
Yeah, I agree with that. Especially Wales, if Bale really steps up.
So you've put Turkey as finishing last in the group.
I just don't see them getting through that group. They've got some talented players, but then again,
But
they
no
did.
one really that attracts major interest across Europe or anything.
They got Karl Hanoglu from.
All right.
AC.
So predictions: first in the group, Italy.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think
Last in the group.
say Turkey.
yeah.
Okay.
'Cause like I said, you've got that fact, we're
Could be Wales. I mean, especially
a
with
team that comes to the
Yeah.
Ryan Giggs sleeping with everyone's wives. And he had another problem recently.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
serious?
heard about that.
Yeah, he got caught up in some women rooting. Problems and
Mate, what are you
dramas.
doing, man? What are you doing?
Man United legend.
Talk about not learning from your mistakes.
No.
No.
Group B: Denmark, Finland, Belgium, and Russia. This is the Netflix show for you.
This is a if more diplomatic answer would be more open group. I think it's any of the four can finish first. I reckon.
Surely
Really?
Belgium's
No,
favourite.
come on. Darcy.
Isn't Belgium ranked number 1 in the world right
Yeah,
now?
They are, and they've got a talented squad. Have they declined a bit? I don't know. I guess they're number 1 in the world.
How did
but-
they decline? Man, De Bruyne has been on fire. Remember, Johnny a few weeks ago
Yeah.
gave him the Ballon d'Or. De Bruyne sent us back a thank you card.
Yeah, I might understand what you're saying, Darcy, but
Are they as good as
the group is Denmark, Finland, and Russia. They're not versing any big one.
they should? Yeah, of the four, Belgium. Then
Yeah,
Belgium number 1 for sure.
Belgium. Yeah.
Yep.
for me, number one, clear lock.
There'll be like $1.03 to top the
Yeah.
group
Yeah.
as a betting man myself.
But whether Hazard is the main player at that time, I don't know.
But it's not just about Hazard,
Yeah.
man. Like you got
They've
De
got De
Bruyne,
Bruyne.
you got Lukaku.
Like Tillemans as well.
I assume Finland to finish last.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Their first tournament, major tournament. Yeah, they're good to see them there.
Congratulations to them.
Timo Pukki.
Do you know anything about Finland?
One of the best players was Jari Litmanen.
No, that's
That
right.
was years ago.
Yeah, yeah.
And they had
But
Sam-
the
Sami
country.
Hyypiä.
Can you name me Finland's national dish?
National dish? No.
Anything about the country at all?
What was it? What's their
You don't know
Currency?
shit. Don't
What's
lie.
it?
Don't lie.
I think they're part of the Euro, actually.
Is it?
Yeah, but this subject's finished.
I am so proud of you.
Someone had to say that.
I am so proud of you. All right, moving on. Group C: Netherlands, Ukraine, Austria, and Macedonia, aka North Macedonia.
I mean, to me, this is another open and shut case. I think Netherlands, while they've not been the same nation in the last couple of tournaments and all that, their talent's definitely increased over the last few years. You got the Ligt at the back, De Jong in midfield, Depay up front. I think they'll be coming first.
And if Van Dijk can come back from his injury as well.
Yeah, 100%.
whether he
I mean,
comes back.
we'll see if he comes back the same.
And Jorginho Wijnaldum in midfield as well.
Yeah.
Not a bad team. Ukraine, you don't count out Ukraine. Andrei Shevchenko's done a pretty good job there since he's taken over. He's
No,
done quite
Ukraine's
well.
always been able to have a bit of talent, the Darcy.
Yeah.
So, like, I do expect them to perhaps come second.
And Austria, don't really see much. They got David Alaba there. But,
Who's that striker for Australia? Used to play for
Arnautovic?
Sydney FC.
Arnautovic?
For Sydney FC. Arnautovic?
Arnautovic.
I can see his face. Lefondre? No.
No.
The frick's his name? I've got him. I can see his face,
Yeah.
and I've got it on the tip of my tongue. Come back to it.
And North Macedonia, what a
So-
story for them.
Massive story. So first,
Ever major since they became an independent nation.
they're gonna finish last.
Yeah,
in my
they've
opinion.
still got
Yeah.
Goran Pandev still playing for
He's the
them.
one that scored
Yeah.
the winner. He's from the Inter Milan.
the treble winning team. Yeah, unbelievable.
Mourinho's
Still
team.
going strong. So yeah, just for them, just to be there is a big story. Good on them.
So Netherlands to finish first, North Macedonia, South Macedonia, East Macedonia, and West Macedonia to finish last.
Yeah, unfortunately. But, look, good on them for getting there as well. They can console Finland.
Group D. This is the good. I like this one. England, Croatia, Scotland, Czech Republic.
Yeah, England's looking okay with the with the talent that they have at the moment, and I think Gareth Southgate's done a good job since the 2018 World Cup, taking them to the semis.
Markienko, that's his name.
There you go.
Austrian striker, Sydney FC. Sorry.
No,
Okay.
no, I'm glad that you...
Yeah,
Corrected that, Johnny.
I think England will come first in the group, but now the question is how far can they go? This is a
Very inconsistent England, and we spoke about this before. Like,
Yeah, it's part of their cultural milestone is to be consistent.
to have good team on paper and then underperform.
yeah.
I think it's in their anthem.
So it's not coming home.
I mean,
I seriously doubt it.
and I think the attack they've got Harry Kane, Marcus Rashford, Mason Greenwood, a few good players up front, and maybe Raheem Sterling as well.
And Matt, I think like if there's an opportunity for a real well and truly coming out party, I think Jadon Sancho can really create a lot of damage for
He's
this.
been linked to Manchester United forever.
And he's a true talent, so I wouldn't be surprised playing him in England with Harry Kane up front. We've said before, like, look, Harry Kane hasn't shown exactly to be the striker he was a few years prior. But I do think he has the reputation that does warrant a lot of attention from defenders. And with that, I think Jadon Sancho will be able to take a bit of extra freedom and run riot.
The replay of the 2018 World Cup semi-final in England and Croatia.
That's the highlight of the group, definitely.
So them two should finish top 2 in whatever order.
Yes, I'll take that. Good to see Scotland back in a major tournament.
I would have loved to see Serbia in this group.
Oh yeah, just
Croatia,
because
Serbia.
what?
Croatia versus Serbia.
England and Scotland would be a good battle. There'd be a rivalry there.
It's a bit different compared to
I know.
Croatia, though. Darcy.
Croatia,
But
Scotland,
when
I'm
you
not going to
think-
watch. Croatia, Serbia, I would have watched for sure.
But England, Scotland, when you think of that, you think of Euro '96 with Paul Gascoigne's goal. He chipped over the defender and scored. And who's the other team? Czech Republic?
Czech Republic, yes.
Not the same team before. I can't see them doing
So
that.
Scotland or Czech to finish last?
Which one, Darcy?
I'd say Scotland.
Oh.
I just think, Scotland.
Are you
It's
sure?
good to see them there, but
Sure.
they're not
All right.
under that next level. I don't
Do you
think
want
they
to check your answer or not?
can. No, I think Scotland comes. Final answer.
I love it.
You'll hold it on to me in what?
We'll remember
7-8 months' time.
All right, Group E: Spain, Sweden, Poland, Slovakia.
I mean, honestly, I think this is a pretty easy one, or it should be for Spain. I think they should be able to sail through this group. However, sometimes it's really hard to be that confident about the Spaniards when they are expected to do well. Sometimes they surprise you and don't do as well, and they are lacking some elite talent, I think, up front at times.
It's definitely not the same Spain team that dominated from 08 to 12. Definitely.
No,
And
definitely not.
It's changed, the new players coming through, not the same kind of quality. You might see in that tournament, Sergio Ramos,
Scoring penalties or missing 2?
he missed 2 this
Oh, mate.
Yeah, unbelievable. He doesn't miss much penalties,
he
but he missed
hasn't.
2 in one game.
They were poorly taken as well,
They
which
were.
is unlike him.
Yeah, but he might actually break the record for the most caps in international football ever by that time.
There you go.
He just broke the European record, beat
Yeah.
Buffon.
With
So
what,
I
177?
Yeah.
I think
Crazy.
this group is pretty... I think it'll finish Spain, Sweden, Poland, Slovakia in that order.
Yeah, I agree.
I think Poland will get through. I think Lewandowski and Piatek up front will be
Okay.
a good
Man,
call.
Piatek hasn't really done what they thought he would do when he would play for Genoa and Milan. But I mean, then again, I did recall, hearing at least that in Hertha Berlin he's been playing pretty well this season. So you never know.
Yeah.
That's the funny thing about international football. That those group stages, because at any time a player gets a good run of form and you can surprise to progress.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But to be honest, I kind of agree, Johnny. I think that's how it will play out.
And the group of death. Well, it's death for
Yeah.
Hungary anyway.
Yeah.
Hungary, Portugal, France, and Germany.
It's one of those things about Hungary, whether they're like scared the hell out of that group or they're just relishing the challenge of playing 3 elite nations. There's once in a lifetime chance. Every game for them is like a massive game. So for them, enjoy it. But as for the other 3, Germany, Portugal,
Enjoy the holiday.
and Germany, Portugal, and France, it could be a good chance that one of them won't get out of the group.
No, I'll tell you what's going to happen. Hungary will finish last. France and Germany will finish first. France second. Portugal will scrape through in a 3rd spot and qualify to the next
And
round.
go on to win it.
And somehow, Ronaldo will be a hero. And I see he can do it for his national team. Did you?
Yeah, fair enough. I do think that the winner out of this group stage is going to go through a route with a lot of confidence. They're going to be battle tested more than any nation in the rest of the tournament.
The high level games.
Exactly. High level games. I don't think other nations in other groups are going to have that same experience and confidence going into the next stages.
Definitely.
So I think that is a massive advantage for whoever comes out first and really feels like that they've got a handle on the tournament.
Yeah, I'd like to see how France go. They've got such an amazing talent of players at their disposal, and I want to see how if Deschamps can get the most out of him in a tough group, and if he doesn't, I can see he won't stay on after that tournament.
So this is the Euros, obviously, and the qualifiers just finished for that.
Yeah.
There's a Nations League as well.
Yes.
Can you give us a 1-minute explanation of how it all ties together? Because some of us have got our hands around it, and some of us have no idea what's going on.
It looks like it's 4-unit maths when you look at this whole the way it works and the process of qualification of how the whole thing goes. But the way it is it's like 6 or 7 groups. There's promotion, relegation at the end. Like at the end of all the games, you get promoted to say group League A, League B, League C, League D. League D being the lowest ranked teams, and so forth. And then it's.
But essentially,
Yeah.
what are the games for?
They add up to qualifying for Euros and World Euros mostly.
So the Nations League is a friendly tournament,
Yes,
but it still gives you a ranking towards the Euros.
qualifying. Yes, and if you go, I think if you come top 4, you get. And if you win it, you go direct to the actual tournament proper.
Wow, so it does
does
actually
count.
act like
Yeah,
a qualifier, so to speak.
it is. Yeah, it does act as qualifiers, or it helps in the rankings for organising groups and seeds and stuff.
I got to be honest.
So
I don't.
that's
understand
how
that.
it is. It's pretty much
So
competitive.
what they wanted to do was give friendlies more of
Yeah. Yeah, and
more importance.
That's right, and then you see there's high level games now where nations are battling really hard because they've got that incentive of being able to qualify and improve their rankings for the groups.
So it's taking away that those international weekends where it was just a friendly where Sweden will play against Andorra and it will be nothing.
Yeah.
now it sort of means something.
So it's trying to take away those nothing games,
Yeah.
but play more competitive.
And it's got the nations like San Marino, Liechtenstein, Gibraltar who are in one group, and they're in group League D, and then as they win, they keep progressing to the higher stages.
So you get relegated and you get promoted.
You get promoted. Yeah, that's how it works. But if we touch on it about the Nations League, it's great for European nations to get competitive games. It's more meaning to it, but I feel it's taken maybe a consequence of non-European nations in their friendlies, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Means that they now have to organise friendlies. They can't organise. Find it tough to organise friendlies amongst European nations. So
Africans against Asians,
Yeah, or
and
South
America,
South America, or even South America. So you're going to see a repeat of South American nations. They've got qualifiers against each other, but then they're playing each other in friendlies and so forth.
Because
so,
they can't find friendlies with European
who
nations.
occupy with the
because
nations.
European
yeah.
nations want to play with that.
Exactly.
I got to tell you, I think it's the stupidest idea we've ever heard.
Yeah.
Why?
I think, mate, players play enough games already that
But
do
it's
mean a
not-
lot.
I'm sorry, but it's not adding more games.
No, but it doesn't.
Those international weekends already exist. Those fixtures, those FIFA fixtures already exist.
100%.
They're just giving it more meaning.
100%. But that incentivizes you to play longer minutes. It means that you need to put more effort in. Well, players play at least 50 games a calendar season.
When you include Cup and Champions League and Euro.
I just think we're putting more pressure on these players. We've seen players get injured. We've seen players and we've seen clubs and nations fight over, players in the past. I think this just puts more pressure on the system in general.
Well, what do you think of international football overall?
I mean, look, I think it definitely has a place in football.
Is that ever questioned?
But I think we need to have a question. I do think we need to question what is its place in football in general. I think there is a place. Just where is it?
I think they need to look at maybe finding a way to schedule the games where, I don't know, just a suggestion, have like a month or two of just international games where teams can get together and have that cohesion, build chemistry, and you'd see more quality games because they meet every month and then different squads.
When are players going to get an off season then?
Not
You'd have to work around. That's the only way, because it's sad to see the state of international football. Because growing up, we all grew up.
Look, it does happen before major tournaments like the Copa America, the Euros, and the World Cup.
Yeah.
But you can't have it mid-season because
What's the solution, though? I mean,
if you think about it, international players are a small percentage of football players all over the world.
Sure.
So what do you do with the rest of the club players? They just train themselves for a month, waiting for the players to come back, and then some players are more tired.
It's one of those things that it's sad to see, because, as I mentioned, a lot of us grew up watching international football, watching World Cups, and the prestige was there. I think when we grew up in the 90s, playing for your country was a massive thing, and players still look forward to it. International break, because they want to represent their country, and they play well for their clubs and they get called up for their nations. But fans, I think they've just switched on more to club football in general. I think it's just
Look, we know
One of
we
those
all know
things.
that club football is where the money is.
Exactly, and there's more money now in the club football, which
100%.
means that
But I want to push back on when you say like World Cups they had a certain prestige, and are you suggesting that now they don't? Because I still feel like the World Cup has
it does.
the prestige that it once had. I just think throughout the calendar year, throughout the year, it's all the other games and other tournaments that people start getting fatigued by from a fan's point of view, but also the players. I don't know how crazy excited players are to represent the nation for some random friendly.
Look, I think the schedule needs to be looked at, like now, like especially now in the COVID era, where that European nations are playing 3 games in the space of a week, and the first round was friendlies, the next 2 were qualifiers of Nations League. And that first round of friendlies could have been scrapped, as an example.
Yeah,
Like, was it Joe Gomez
yeah.
getting injured? He's out. And a few others now picked up injuries.
Yeah, and I mean, like, as if Liverpool needs more injuries, and now you've got a player injured from international duty, which, interestingly enough, FIFA's actually going to be paying his wages until he comes back. So, I mean, this begs the question of where does the duty of care and responsibility begin and end for players? Is it their clubs? Is it their national team? For me, I just feel like you keep your World Cup. I think you keep your Euro and Copa America, and then everything else you try to diminish, you try to slowly phase out.
How do you qualify?
No, like obviously qualifiers, but not as many friendlies, not any of this nation league stuff.
But how are teams meant to have any chemistry, know each other? So,
I mean,
but international games,
challenge,
but international games become just a bunch of blokes coming together and playing a game.
And then
There's no substance to
they
it.
meet every
no
month
more-
or so, and every squad is different. It's
Look, I'm not saying it's a straight answer.
Yeah.
But before we started recording, you're saying some other sports don't even have play international sports
Yeah,
at all.
yeah, 100%. Like, I mean, the NBA only play in the Olympic Games. NFL doesn't play international sport at all. I know for obvious reasons, no other nation in the world plays gridiron.
yeah.
But it just begs the question of how much place it has. That's all.
Isn't there a basketball World Cup?
There is
Yeah.
world championships there.
There is, but like,
There's no high importance because
Olympics is regarded higher.
yeah.
Can
I ask, do you put, like, besides the World Cup, do you put like an age restriction on some of these competitions?
well, the Olympics has them.
Yeah,
under 23.
something similar to that.
No.
No,
Not many people will tune. FIFA would lose a
man, a lot of people don't really tune in
revenue
now.
and viewership for World Cups if you do that.
No, not for World. I just said not for World Cup, but for other competitions.
Well, the Confederations Cup is one that not many people watch.
Yeah, that's
Exactly.
only
and that's what I had in my head.
That's only there as a rehearsal for the World Cup, where they test the facilities, the stadiums, the transport, everything like that. That's all there. But that's something that I think they're going to scrap soon. And they wanted to add a Club World Cup and expand it to 24 teams at the end of the year. And now they're saying, we might not be able to do it because of COVID.
That's ridiculous as well, because if it's, I don't know, like I like the Club World Cup as it stands because it's the champions of each
Country. And then
of each continent.
Continent,
Yeah.
sorry. But if you have
If you have 24, the second, the third, so you can finish whatever in your
the third best from Oceania versus the
Come on, man.
second best from Africa, I don't know, no disrespect to them.
I get what you're saying.
But another thing to touch on about, they want to expand the World Cup to 48 teams, was it? For 2026? That's ridiculous. I don't agree with that
That's
at
a
all.
money-based decision.
It's going to dilute
the quality of competition in the tournament.
And I'm sorry, for the Euros, they expanded that to 24 teams from Euro 2016.
Yeah,
16-24, and that tournament, there was a lot of games that were a snooze fest.
really.
And
Yeah.
It just, and like I said, was it 6 groups. If you come third, you can still make the knockout stage. And Portugal didn't win a game in the group stage, 3 draws, and then they still went on to win the tournament.
There you go. Told you. So my prediction for this tournament was pretty spot on.
So, yeah, I don't agree with that. And I think if you do that, then that could even diminish international football even more.
So you think it's diminished now?
It's getting, I don't know, I just feel like it doesn't have that wow factor as it did before. But when the World Cup comes along, and yes, everyone's excited and the viewership is still there, but the actual qualifiers and everyone's like, oh, here we go. In Spain, they call it a FIFA virus because players come back injured. In Spain, like in the Spanish newspaper, they call it the FIFA virus because of the
Honestly,
injuries.
I think if it's a question of prestige, I think you could only increase the prestige of playing for your nation and for international football if you diminish the amount of games that these players have to play for international football. I understand what Johnny is saying about chemistry, but if every nation had to deal with the same issue regarding chemistry, I don't see what's the big issue with that.
Yeah, you're just cutting preparation time for teams
You are
to
cutting
get
a
to
bit
know
of
each
preparation
other.
time. I agree.
And therefore, something like a World Cup might not have the same amount of quality.
That's true.
Yeah.
So, like, obviously there are factors, and the biggest factor here is that FIFA makes money with every friend.
100%. I just feel like, and that's I think the biggest threat posing football right now is the fact that every decision from the higher ups seem to be based purely around money. I mean, like, I agree and I understand that economics have to play a vital part. But at the same time, I just feel like, when are we going to look at player welfare, players' mental health, and even from a fan's point of view, we need to start thinking about those things, because otherwise it will eventually hurt the game.
But you look at things like player welfare and player mental health. You ask a player, and not one player is going to tell you, "No, I don't want to play for my country."
Of course, but that's the same as when you ask a player, "Can you play?" Even though they're hurt, how many players would say, "Yeah, no, you're right, I'm hurt"? If it's a World Cup final, how many players are going to make that call to say, "No, I really am hurt," when they probably shouldn't play on the field? That's why you have people making those decisions for players, because you're right. From a player's heart on their sleeve, of course they're going to play for the nation.
I'd rather them get rid of the League Cups, or not the League Cup, as in the FA
From
Cup.
club football's perspective.
Yeah. Well,
diminish
look, I'm thinking England only. I don't know if the other clubs,
They
if the
all
other
have,
leagues do
like-
it.
yeah.
But there's a league, there's a League Cup, and there's like a third, like the
FA Cup.
No, there's the League,
Carabao
FA Cup, the Carling Cup,
the Carling Cup, the whatever it's called now.
all that kind of stuff.
I'll get rid of that cup on its own.
No,
It serves no purpose.
So what you're saying is, like, look from a club perspective, and what can we do from the club system to try to help with player welfare, with the congestion. I totally agree. I was thinking the same thing. I was going to bring up that point myself. There are little cup competitions that I don't think they need.
Well, the domestic cup competitions still have a place for the lower.
You're thinking of the league. You're thinking of the Copa del Rey and stuff.
Well, they made a move.
I'm talking about the other. I don't know if the other
The French have the Ligue 1, French Cup, French League Cup as well. Like England.
Okay.
So, but
get rid of one. Like minimise the games they play at domestic level.
Spain, they made the move of make for the Copa del Rey to make them one-legged ties. There used to be two-legged ties, which is good. It's generating more interest.
Even things
That's
like that
helped a bit.
Yeah, I mean, even things like that will help.
Yeah.
But can I ask, and just putting it out there, how much do you guys value, the Super Cups? Is there a place for the Spanish Super Cup, the UEFA Super Cup? These are these one-legged or two-legged game.
The Community Shield and as well.
ties at the
It's an
beginning.
extra. Look, it's funny. It's funny you say that because I thought about it in the past in regards to some countries call it a Super Cup
Yeah.
and give it a bit more importance. Whereas in England, it's a Charity Shield and there's not much Community Shield, whatever it's called, and
Yeah.
there's not much to it.
Yeah. And I just think, like, every
Maybe.
year, is that something that we need to start looking at doing away?
That's a one-off match. It's not.
It is, but like every match counts, don't they?
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
So club versus country. What do fans think about that? Like, what do you think fans?
It's different. I mean, with a club, you're supporting them 30 weeks in a year. National team comes up once or twice every month or so, or it's a different kind of sport. But yeah, club football, I find more fans are into it more because it's a weekly thing for them. It's a daily grind for them. That's probably why a lot of fans, maybe in England, prefer club football over country. And actually in Germany, viewership for the national team has gone down a lot. So I think maybe that has to do with the fact Germany aren't doing as well, or maybe they've lost interest in they don't care about the Nations League, things like that.
So I think, like, the way I look at it as well is,
every country's different. Yeah.
Look, I don't know if you're an Englishman. I don't know how you're going to feel about England. If you're an Argentinian, Johnny, I don't know how you're going to feel about your national team. I do know that football as an international game means that you have a lot of people like me whose nation of origin are not going to be competing at the in the finals of these tournaments. So naturally, it's a time where you're not as invested as in compared to club football. There are millions of fans across the United States, across Asia, across the Middle East, across Africa, where the World Cup it's nice to for your nation to be represented, but you do know that your nation's not necessarily going to get to the final. So for me, a lot of it is how much does the international audience really care about international football? And I think the proof is there. I think the fact that club football makes them more money is proof that fans are switching more to their club football anyway.
Yeah, I think it's spot on. I think it's perspective in regards to, in Australia, for example, I don't know many people that feel connected to the Socceroos. I don't feel a lot of people that feel connected to the national team.
Not in these days, anyway.
And to be fair, a lot of people feel more connected to a team in Europe, a club team like Barcelona, Real Madrid, Arsenal, Chelsea, Man United, Liverpool, than they do to their local A-League clubs.
Of course, yeah.
100%.
So when it comes to international football, yes, they watch it, but they mainly watch to see how their favourite player from their team is performing.
From
Maybe
their
not
club,
their own nation, yeah.
More than if Australia plays against Japan or whoever else.
And while football is the world game, in some of these nations, Australia, America, their number one sport isn't football. So you do need to understand that. Like, I guess, just the interest isn't there from what it once was. The World Cup still has all the prestige. I honestly think that other competitions, including Copa America and Euro, it doesn't have the same level of importance as club football these days.
Look, the World Cup is a different kettle of fish.
Yeah.
The World Cup on its own, it's as big, if not bigger, than the Olympics. Anyone will wake up to watch any game in any country. Everyone wants to watch that. Sorry, for example, in Argentina, and this is where Adasi was talking about, you support your team for X amount of weeks throughout the year. Mm-hmm. You have a closer alliance to your club. You feel like a fanaticism towards your club, and that's your passion, right? Unless it's a tournament like the World Cup or Copa America where you might watch games, I know a lot of people in Argentina that don't watch friendlies, qualifiers, don't care for the national team. I do not feel like, if you ask any fan, I'm not going to say any fan, but if you ask 95% of the fans overseas, and I'm pretty sure a lot of places in Europe it's the same thing, what would you rather, your team win the Champions League or Libertadores or whatever, or your team to win the Copa America or the World Cup? Yeah. They'll go for the club.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I agree.
Like I said, as you said, you just follow them every day of the week for 30 odd weeks a year. And like I said, in England as well, there's so much rivalry with club fans. Like,
100%.
are they really going to get together? Are they really going to get together? Like Liverpool, Man United fans wanting to get together.
No, I agree. Like, I mean, there's a tribalism to club football.
Exactly right.
You got your Man City versus Man United fans. The enemy's in your face a lot more often than a nation that's halfway across the world. You feel
a lot more connected to the players that are in your backyard. Yeah. Like in Argentina, for example, the majority of them are now in Europe.
Oh yeah, exactly. And like, it's shocking, Johnny, that you say, from an Argentinian perspective, that you say that that's the case, because Argentina is one of the strongest nations in football. So then, how does a person who's American how do you expect them to show the same level of commitment to international football, or somewhere in Asia, or even in Australia? It's unfortunately just, we've always said it, football is an unequal game. International football, it was supposed to be the level playing field when it comes to talent, because you can't buy talent, etc. But it seems like to me that regardless of what style or what type of game it is, international club, it's an unequal game. So it makes it hard for fans from countries that don't come from successful countries to really care.
Well, I was in Argentina last year when they were playing a friendly. Pretty sure it was a friendly. And I was in a taxi and it was on the radio, but I go home and some of my mates who are fanatics and they follow their clubs like nothing else. Yeah. Didn't even watch the game, didn't even know the game was on, didn't know the result of the national team playing.
Well, yeah, that's an example. Also, maybe in Spain as well, where some parts of the country are so divided, don't care about the national team.
I think us being overseas, and I see this a lot, become more patriotic and become more in regards to being attached to your national team. Mm-hmm. Like, for example, this weekend I went to watch the rugby union. Okay. Argentina beat New Zealand for the first time ever. I don't care about rugby union, I know nothing about the sport. I don't care. But the country was here, you go to the stadium, you celebrate, you chant like it was a football game, just to feel a connection to your country. So being outside your own home, you feel a stronger connection to the national team. And I find that, for example, last week when Argentina played against Paraguay, I was at work and trying to watch the game as much as I could, and you still want to you still have that same obsession that you do with your club.
Yeah, because I think that like when you're not when you're in a different country than of your origin, I really then think it's a lot of it then becomes about identity.
That's
You
right.
probably miss being there, watching it there. So now the chances come here to watch your national team play any sport, whether it's rugby or football.
But it's also about sending a message to the community around you of who you are as a person, and it's a way of displaying your identity as a person.
If us as fans feel like that, how do you think players feel? I mean, there's a lot of examples where players perform for one better than the other, so they might feel a better connection or feel more comfortable in one compared to the other. So this is us as fans. What do you think players, or how do you think players would feel?
I mean, I don't know. I think, I do think that players most of the time would probably dream about representing their nation, because I think the World Cup does hold that history. But I think that the reality then becomes how many games, how many friendlies, the whinging from their clubs. I do think that the whole system becomes a headache for players. And it's not so much targeted just at international football, but at both, at the entire system, at the congestion. They play way too many games with a very small off season. I think the question about international versus club football, I think the relevancy of that question starts to fade when the issue really becomes there's just too many games.
Yeah, players. I think one example, James Rodriguez, maybe with his time at Real Madrid, where he wasn't getting much of a look in, and then every time international break came, he got called up for Colombia, and that was his escape. That was his escape to play football again. That was his escape to enjoy his football. So he's one example, and he'd always look forward to joining up with the team. And there was a dispute as well when he was at Real. He was injured. Real say he was injured, but he still travelled with the national team to play for Colombia, and then they found out while he was with the Colombian national team that he was injured and ended up playing. So then Real Madrid got annoyed, saying, "We flew you over across the Atlantic Ocean and then you didn't play." You know.
Speaking of escape,
But-
I mean, the best example of that is Gareth Bale, right?
Yeah.
Well, what is it?
Wales, Golf, Madrid in that order.
Come on.
That's.
So I think that's a great example.
And he
eh?
even said in an interview, he said, "I feel so happy and relaxed in the Wales camp compared to when he was at Real." This is his last few years at Real, season or so.
This is where I smirk though and go, really? Is it because of the patriotism, Johnny, or is it because you're the best player in that squad, and therefore everything is fixed for you?
So it's
Everything's
about-
built around you.
So it's about that environment.
Yeah, exactly. How much of it is your comfort zone? Being the top dog versus being at Real Madrid when you come in €90 million transfer and you're playing on the bench.
Yeah, but Gareth Bale was underappreciated at Real Madrid.
Underappreciated.
Please.
€17 million a
He's
season.
got
is-
essential goals.
He did.
That scissor kick,
He
overhead
did.
kick against Liverpool in the final.
Oh, he did.
He's got a lot of important
Oh,
goals.
no.
he also
doubt
was
in-
asleep on the bench, Johnny.
But his
After he got
his
treated like
attitude
crap.
did not help him.
One that keeps getting criticised, and we spoke about this before, is Messi, saying doesn't perform at national level, as opposed to club level.
Yeah.
There's a lot of factors of those players that get criticised for that. I mean, obviously you're more comfortable in a stadium where you play every second week,
Yep.
in a training ground where you train every single day, with the staff that you know every single day, your coaches that you know.
You know them, yeah.
Yeah, so that once again, it's that environment factor.
Yep.
So obviously you feel more comfortable in your club.
I think Messi is one of the most unique cases though to analyse because
But is the bar so high in Barcelona? Is the bar so high that if he doesn't score a hat trick for Argentina every game, he's crap? I mean, he's top goal scorer in the history of Argentina in the national team.
Yep.
Like I said before, he single-handedly qualified them for the World Cup, got him out of the group stage. Does not probably step up in some big games, but
he's an interesting case to look at, mate, because honestly, I think you're right, and I don't know if is the bar set so high by Barcelona, but just by his own play, right? Because of what he achieves. But he's unique. Sorry,
you're right.
but he's unique compared to some of the other cases because a large part of his youth was in Spain. And I think that sets him apart from some of the other examples we could mention.
And I think as well in Argentina, they see him as the next hope of getting a World Cup. He's the best player in the world, one of the best players in the world at the moment, and He's one more World Cup. This is his last chance, and he's had chances, and they see him as the one who can bring that trophy home.
Yeah, look, and I think we've spoken about him in detail the last few episodes. So I don't want to keep
No,
referring to him.
of course.
But he's a big example when you talk about club versus country. That's the main point why he gets criticised.
The main criticism people levy at him is his performance for international.
Is it because he doesn't show much passion for Argentina as he does for Barcelona, or as Maradona did for Argentina before?
I think
because he's not much.
He's let down his Maradona.
He's got the arm man, but he doesn't really show that he's a leader. Is
Yeah.
that because as well that
Maybe. Another player that may have performed better at club than he did at country for me was Viduka.
Oh, yeah?
definitely, absolutely, big good example, especially one close to home in Europe. Whatever it was at Celtic, Leeds, Middlesbrough, Newcastle, he was scoring goals. He was in double digits in his goal scoring, but when it came to Australia, I think he scored like 10 or 11.
Very low. Like even in the World Cups, he is.
But they said that in his role in Australia was he held the ball up really well, and he'd feed off well towards Cahill and Kuehl in attack, and that's why his goal
Mate, you're a 9.
scoring.
You're a 9.
He had the Olivier Giroud role.
That was my next point.
That's but I saw the way he played for
Come
Australia.
on, man, you're a 9.
I know, but that's the way I used to watch him play for Socceroos, and the way he played for club football.
Just be a 9, man. You're a 9. Just be a 9.
Well, Giroud, he won a World Cup. Does that mean that he performed for France?
See, I don't know. Like for us, I think we've talked about it before. We would say no. Like all of us have said, yeah, not really.
Yeah.
But like Adasi said about Viduka, tactically, did he do his job? And what was his role? Was his role to score? Yes, he's a 9, but this is the way people look at football these days. You know, if his job was to hold up the ball, you know, get the goal kicks from the keeper,
And get off to Mbappe and Griezmann.
Yeah.
To do the scoring.
and if he can do that, then has he done his job effectively?
Once again, you're a 9.
Yeah.
You're the number 9, the main strike in a team that's just won the World Cup. You haven't had one shot on target in the whole tournament.
Johnny's face, he's looking so shitty right now. I know, it's like, it boggles the mind now. But this is the way football's been played, mate. This is the way football's going. Was where players from anywhere of the field,
use of wingers and
midfielders, anywhere on the field, you're expecting goals. Your striker doesn't always have to be the goal scorer anymore.
I mean, there's examples of both performing for your national team and not performing a club, or performing a club and not. Like we spoke about Wales doing it one way.
Yeah.
We spoke about someone like Viduka doing it the other way. Peter Crouch is an interesting one.
He is.
So Peter Crouch obviously bounced around a few different clubs.
Mm-hmm.
Was very inconsistent. I don't think he's reached 20 goals in one season for any club.
No.
And yet, for England, he had an amazing record at one stage. I think he scored 22 goals in 30-something games or 40 games. He scored 5 goals in 6 games.
Yeah, he was always getting called up, yeah.
He's a real odd player. Like, how tall was this guy? 6'7"?
Yeah.
Too tall.
Very lanky.
Too tall, yeah. Like,
Very lanky, yeah.
I mean, it was just one of those things, where I think England knew exactly the system that they needed to play. Just, cross the ball, corner the ball as much as they could to this 6'7", giant.
So he was more consistent for England than he was at club level.
Another example, Miroslav Klose.
He's probably one of the main ones. I mean, the guy's got the record for the most goals in the World Cup tournament ever.
Yeah. Since 2002, every World Cup he'd pop in, average about 3 goals in the tournament.
In a club level, he played for Bremen.
Werder Bremen, Kaiserslautern. He played Bayern Munich a bit, Lazio as well.
Yeah, of course. I love that. Of course. He's German.
Every German's
he
going to
could
Bayern.
score. He's going to play for Bayern Munich.
But, he wasn't as prolific or well known as a target man for any of those clubs. Not from what I remember.
So yeah, but we think of him. We think of World Cups.
Yes.
We don't think of club football.
No, yeah.
You think a national team. You think that.
I think it's a case of, once again, like the Gareth Bales of the world, like the Hamas, where they just feel comfortable around the national team, around that squad, and for whatever reason that it works for them.
Another example of a bit obscure, Claudio Pizarro, the Peruvian. He was a household name in Germany with Werder Bremen and Bayern.
Yeah,
for Peru, did little to nothing. You ask any Peruvian, they say for the national team doesn't show up. Yeah, he's been great in the Bundesliga, but when it comes to national team duty, hardly ever showed up.
Okay.
Yeah, it's an interesting one.
Any Brazilians come to mind?
Brazil's an interesting one. A couple of players, Giovanni Elba, did very well in Germany with Bayern and in Lyon as well, and Borussia Mönchengladbach or Stuttgart, and couldn't get a look in Brazil. But I think that has to do with the fact that that's such a great talent pool up front at the time, anyway, where it was just so hard to get a look in. Even you're doing so well. Even Mario Jardel, top scorer, Golden Boot winner in Europe, 2 years. Hardly any, not only just scored him for Brazil, but hardly played for him. I think that's different because at that time Ronaldo, Romario, Rivaldo up front.
That was a competitiveness of the
Yeah,
national team.
Yeah, definitely.
Going back to Crouch, he did have the best interview of all time, I think.
Oh,
The
yeah?
best interview ends of all time. Have you
no.
guys heard that
Which
one?
one was that one? He's
They asked him, they said, if you were not a football player, what would you be? He replied, a virgin. He was one ugly motherfucker. At least he was honest about it.
there you go.
Oh, wow.
What about Gian from Ghana? Gian?
Yeah, Asamoah Gyan. Yeah, he's
So he did very well with Ghana, especially in the World Cup.
yeah.
I know we all remember him for that game against Uruguay, but as a player, he did really well in that tournament and for the country. And yet at club level, he couldn't really.
Yeah, after that World Cup, he went to Sunderland. He scored a few goals at the beginning, and then he was known for some weird goal celebration as well. And, then after that, his work ethic was questioned a lot, and then he just went to Dubai, or some other club in the UAE for the dollar, top dollar for the money.
Would you say
Paid it off.
Ian Robben for Holland underperformed for the national team? Or
Yes and no. I mean, I don't know what his goal to cap ratio was. He was a fantastic player for Bayern Munich, for Real Madrid, for Chelsea. Like he was a fantastic player all around. I'm pretty sure he did really well for Holland, but I mean the case has to be made. How much does a player influence matches?
I think
You know?
one moment for him which would have changed his perception of the national team was that save from Casillas in the final 2010 World Cup.
yeah,
Yeah.
If that gone in, well, could have been changed.
there's a few. Also, 2014 World Cup. So, I mean,
Ah.
Holland did make the 2010 final and the 2014 semi-finals.
Yeah,
So-
true, exactly. Yeah.
And he,
2014 was the last minute of the game. He went through and goals 1-on-1 against Romero. And
Yeah.
Mascherano comes in last second and
Yeah.
tackles him.
yeah,
That's another one. But I think he's also remembered for diving one of the World Cups, and he got a penalty against someone.
yeah. Well, I think 2010 or 2014.
Come on,
or
us. If you don't know, no one will
It
ever
was,
know.
well, the thing is, no disrespect to Robin, he had that reputation of diving a lot, so it happened a lot in his career. But
I don't think he's going to get offended, and I don't think he cares what you think.
given what he's won,
He should though. He should.
What about the 1990 top goal scorer for the tournament?
Salvatore Scalacci, yeah, he came out of nowhere. Really, not many people heard of him, and then took Italia 90 by storm, top scorer, and wasn't really heard of much after that at a club level. Not that from what I read or saw of him, there's more. You think of him, you think of the national team at that World Cup.
It's a case of lightning in a bottle, isn't it? Like it happens. You get informed, you get confident.
Mm-hmm.
I just think it's and that's what's exciting about international football. That's why I would never want it to go away, Johnny, because it is fun to watch.
The surprise factor.
The surprise factor, as Darcy just really interrupts me.
Who did Taffarel play for at club level? Did he play in Europe?
Yeah, Galatasaray in Turkey, and he's actually coaching.
Is Turkey really Europe? Though?
The party UEFA. They actually half.
Okay.
Istanbul,
Well, but-
east meets west.
I think the point stands though. He never reached the elite in club football.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
known for an amazing tournament in '94.
Yep, and then France '98 was there as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other players or any other things that you want to bring up in regards to international football?
One name that sticks to mind, Roger Miller from Cameroon. He was known for his day at his national team level
Mm-hmm.
in Italia '90.
Rene Higuita, another one.
Yes,
He
yes.
said Milan going to Higuita straight away.
And then USA '94, he became at the time the oldest player to play at a World Cup.
Valderrama, speaking of Colombia,
Yeah, like I said, you remember them for their national team.
you think of them in the national jersey, but if I ask you who did Valderrama play for, who would you say?
I know he played for Valladolid once. And that's it.
Once.
But in most of his time, and I remember he played in the MLS towards the end of his career.
Okay.
I just love how you said he played once. he played half a game.
Twice,
a couple
3
of years.
times.
So therefore, he's remembered more for what he did at country level than he did at club level.
Can I ask you, because
Yeah.
I mean, I genuinely don't know the answer, but what would you consider Gildiger Haji's career? Would it be for Romania or for, club?
You'd know him. I know him more for the '94 World Cup.
Same.
Yeah.
My first ever moment at World Cup was his goal against Colombia, but he did play for Barca and Real Madrid.
That's true.
So
Yeah, that's
that's-
exactly why I asked, though,
Yeah.
because he's a few players that did reach the elite,
Yeah.
but yet at the same time, his career never really carried with a lot of success.
Yeah.
So that you instantly think, yeah, I remember that, like, UEFA Champions League winning club or anything
Yeah.
like that. So you do think about...
You think national team?
Yeah, you think national team, don't
Did
you?
Shevchenko do anything for Ukraine?
Yeah, he only one major tournament, the 2006 World Cup. They got to the quarterfinals.
Okay.
He scored a couple of goals. in that
He's a
tournament.
fantastic player, right?
Oh, yeah. But for him, I think you remember him for his Milan days.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. And Dinamo Kiev to an extent.
No, you
Yeah,
don't.
definitely
You
not
remember him from
Chelsea.
Milan. No, not Chelsea.
I used to love him at Milan.
Yeah.
Big
Big,
mistake.
big transfer blunder for Chelsea and for Shevchenko, really.
Another player.
Not for Shevchenko. I'm sure he made the
Another
dollars.
player for that I think of national team football is the goalkeeper from Mexico, Jorge Campos.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's eccentric jersey, very colourful, and he played the game as a keeper, and he wasn't that high in stature as well.
It's
I
true.
don't know.
I mean, we're mentioning all these players who most football fans would know, right? But most football fans at the same time will struggle to tell you which clubs they play for.
And another one for about you guys, Roberto Baggio. Yes, he played for the best clubs in Italy, but I think of him with Azzurri, with that jersey.
That's a really interesting point,
Yeah.
Darcy.
I don't know. I just think.
But,
of
but
him.
that's us from the outside, right? I
Yeah.
think Italians don't see it exactly the same way. I think they do definitely think of him as part of the Azzurri, but because it speaks back to that tribalism. I think people of Florence think about Baggio as one of theirs. But I think people from Juve think about Baggio as one of theirs.
Speaking of Florence, I don't know if you guys heard, but Batistuta might be joining their coaching staff. There,
Oh, really?
Fiorentina.
Oh, wow, that'll be awesome for
to work
them.
with the strikers.
They
there.
just sacked their coach, Beppe Iacchini, and they hired a bit of an old name, Cesar
Cesar.
Prandelli.
So
Taken-
he's the one that called
He called
Taking back the days.
Batistuta and asked
I
him
need you, mate.
Taking back the days.
to come and assist
The
to the strikers.
The Nintendo days.
It's so funny because, like, when I think about Fiorentina right now, Frank Ribéry,
Yeah.
how did he go with his French career?
Well, he was cut short because of the dramas he had in the national team. Is that right?
Yeah, 2010 was the big
The big blowout,
commotion.
that
Commotion, man, that was really bad. That was awful. And then he was supposed to go to 2014 World Cup, but he got injured. And I just wonder whether if he did go, how far France would have gone, because he was playing quite well. He was the year before that he won the treble with Bayern Munich and probably may have deserved the Ballon d'Or as well.
Yeah, and he, I remember when he was young, and he was like, who did he play for in Ligue 1?
Marseille.
Yeah, he played for
And-
Marseille, and he was super talented.
And not many people know he's at Galatasaray for a bit as well. And then
Yeah, which was such a random move. I remember that. I was like, why would you go there when
Yeah.
the elite clubs were begging for you?
Yeah.
Yeah, he had a pretty good 2006 World Cup, though,
he did.
didn't he?
He did. He
Yeah.
played really well, and he actually came close to scoring in that final.
Linked up really well with Zidane. But yeah, no, I think of his career in international football as somewhat of a disappointment, to be honest.
That's because of the whole
Yeah.
Benzema and Ribéry incident that happened in the French team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in Tony Montana, Scarface. All right, guys. Any last comments in regards to international football?
I think it still has its play. It'll still be there, but the question is,
How can you make it better?
yeah, how can you make it
Yeah.
better? And the players, I can see players still love representing their country. They play week in, week out, perform for their clubs to get called up for their nation. But
Honestly,
it's
something.
it's one of the things, like the viewership, interest has changed as well. More people lean towards club football, particularly Champions League, which is seeing more interest in that. I hope it doesn't die away, because they're still a part of it, because we all love World Cups, we all love Euros, we all love Copa Americas. So I hope it's still there, and they can find a way where people can still get into it.
I don't think it will ever die away, Darcy.
Yeah.
But Guys, like, I just think something has to change, though.
Maybe this is the calendar. They need to look at the calendar.
The system isn't working. Something has to change.
All right, on that note, as always, hit like, subscribe, comment, let us know what you think. A lot of you are messaging us privately still and telling us what you think, but do it in the comments.
It really helps, guys, with the algorithms. We want new fans. We want to increase the amount of subscribers we have, and in order to do that, we need as much engagement. And we would all be really interested in hearing your opinion.
Apart from that, just have the balls to put them in the comments.
The balls.
Don't be afraid to get some backlash. If you want to be part of the show, let us know. If you want us to speak about anything particular, let us know. But as always, thank you. See you next time.